Sorry about that. I just it's early in the morning. And it's a bit technical at the moment. So anyway, this is the new format, if you like. These are just the lives, and I'm going to talk about a thing, but not in the same way that I did with the proper videos yesterday. This is a thing that I talked about it in the course about holding the charcoal. And I'd seen many years ago somebody talking about the cradle thing. I hadn't sunk in, never really thought about it. It's just natural. I think it's natural because you tend not to hold charcoal like that. So it was kind of immediately I was holding it, grasping it, and letting it as I said, cradle in my hand. One of the main things is that with charcoal, particularly soft charcoal, because you don't have to press hard onto it. You don't want to put press hard on it anyway. Not all the time. I mean, if you want to make it dark, you would. But it suits this. Pencils don't necessarily suit unless you're doing a lot of some of the finer stuff we used to see in the academies when they do the very fine sort of grading of tone. But even so, I would hold a pencil like this, and the reason why I hold a pencil like this in this instance is because of my working setup. It's not a dictated thing. People may want to draw like that, and they may want to draw like that. They're out content how they hold the pencil. It's not to do with you must always hold it like this. If you want a loose style, if you want to make sort of gestural drawings, then yeah, by all means, that is probably the right way. But it's not dictated that that's what you must do because that's the only way you can do it. You can do it that way just as much, and it's more difficult when you're at arm's length and not leaning on the paper. But if you want to make detailed drawings, there's nothing wrong with doing that and working from the wrist. It's just that if you want a certain style, a certain outcome, or you want to draw in and you feel you must draw in a certain way, then maybe holding the pencil that way is the way to suit you. It's not it's not either or. You can do whatever. Yeah, I can do that and I can do that in the same drawing. It's not this thing that's going to be you must do it, or otherwise you're not capable of drawing. People can draw just as well from the wrist as they can from their arm or their elbow or their shoulder. But the reason why I hold it like I do is because I literally do sit at arm's length from the paper, and I literally work from the shoulder. So a lot of the gestures that I make are from my shoulder and not from anywhere else. It's difficult when you're working at arm's length to do it from the elbow anyway, because it sort of deforms the communication. When you draw, say I draw from so I'm drawing now, for instance. What's happening now is that I'm doing it from my shoulder. It's happening from my shoulder. It's literally, you can see there's no elbow movement there at all. Doing it from the elbow at this point is not possible, because all of a sudden my interpretation of the line from what I see and what I want it to do is being deformed by the elbow. So it needs to be straight. So in effect, it is literally just pivoted from my elbow. So elbow and wrist is what's happening. Shoulder and wrist is what's happening, not elbow. So locking at the shoulder and working with the wrist is what's happening. So that's what's happening. So I get the full extension of the arm from the shoulder, but I get a micro extension at the wrist. You see, so that essentially is what's happening, and it's happening because of my working environment. It's because I work sat or stood in front of an upright canvas or paper. So that's why I hold it like I do, because in the early stages I don't want to do that. I don't want to be doing that. And the reason for it is that you can quickly get sucked into. So we're going to look at our eye now. You can get quickly sucked into doing that, and then all of a sudden I'm drawing the edges of our eye, and and I'm putting that in there, and I've done that, and it's too soon. It's too soon. So holding it like that makes me want to be more precise. Makes me want to be more specific about a thing that might not be in the right place, and it's too soon to sort of get into details of what it should be. I want to make sure that it is in the right place before I start doing anything like that. So I'm quite happy for the lines to be loose and to be non-specific at this point. It's too soon to do that. So this is the reason why I don't hold the pencil like that or the charcoal like that. But that's it. It's the one of the things that I say, people will tell you that, and I've been saying on the courses, that your setup is the most important thing, and holding the charcoal or holding the pencil is one of those components that you can quickly change the way that your outcome, you're working, and how efficient you are. But it's just a setup. It's not a practice thing. It's a practice thing if you're working at arm's length, and it's a practice thing if you're not used to holding the charcoal in such a loose and light way, because a lot of people will grip things, and part of the problem is gripping. That's probably the reason why that is not such a good idea, because it is more of a grip than it is that is. That's as I said before, it's kind of a cradling of the thing, and it also allows for much more delicate mark making. In the early stages, you may not want to be specific about the lines. You may want them to be very faint and not detailed, because at this point I don't really want to, if in terms of, if you want to fix it, you don't want to make too much of an impression on the paper, because you'll rip it all off. So if it's too hard, the marks are too indented within the paper, it's going to be difficult to take them off. So it's better that it just floats across the surface. Now that in itself is another question of the charcoal that you're using. So if floating across the paper leaves no mark because it's so hard, then maybe you want to be looking at a different charcoal. But the main thing, I think, is that you can hold it however you want. There's no specific rule in terms of this, and your outcome might be that you need to work by leaning on the paper and probably horizontal. Although making portraits horizontal is always a bad idea, because it takes a long time to learn to do that. Because your brain has to take from the horizontal to the vertical, from the vertical to the horizontal, unless you're doing side by side. But even so, you're still looking at something that's diminishing. So you're leaning over, make sure that when it diminishes, it doesn't get any smaller, that sort of thing. So you're not, the head is not kind of doing that when it gets smaller towards the top of there. So when you're working horizontal, that's an issue. Working upright, you don't have any of that. The brain doesn't get involved in all that sort of thing. So you never really suffer from any kind of serious foreshortening. But the what I was saying, the kind of again, it's one of those prescriptive things. You must do this and it will improve and all the rest of it. There's no doubt that working upright, and there's no doubt that not holding the charcoal or the pencil hard will have an impact on your drawing. It can't help but have an impact, but it's whatever suits. If it's a case of you wanting to do a particular kind of drawing, and this, which is more flowing and more gestural, then obviously working upright and holding the charcoal like this is probably where you want to go, because that's what most of us do it. Gestural, then obviously working upright and holding the charcoal like this is probably where you want to go, because that's what most of us do it. But if your drawing is detailed and very precise, hold the pencil like a pencil and then draw that way. It's okay. It doesn't really matter, really, because it's you that decides on what the outcome should be, not anybody else. But if like I say, if you want to draw in a more looser style, and you want to really sort of be more gestural and more. Sorry, I'm just thinking. just a more artistic. The thing I'm trying to avoid is using the word loose, because the reason this right, this is, you know, my scribbles. You see my scribbles every day, and you see me, like yesterday's demo was that. That's why I ended up yesterday. This mechanics thing is all part of a mindset thing. They're all connected. So when you take away the function aspect, or the difficulty of a function, then the brain is quite happy just to say, oh well, we'll just, you know, this is what's important, which is the more sort of suggestive and more flamboyant, and, you know, more less precise. So the brain, the mindset is allowing you to free flow. No, that's what's happening. So it's a mindset plus the physical thing of it. As soon as you do that, and you do it with a pencil, the mind goes into a different mind. It goes into a different zone, if you like. It's more precision based. So where at this, it's more expressive and gestural and free flowing, and people call that looseness, as opposed to the precision that you get when you're doing this. I mean, there's partly the tool thing as well, because what other people don't talk about is the tool thing. If you're drawing at this size, and the drawings end up being, you know, that's probably a bit too precise, but they end up being like that, at that size, this is probably the better size to work at. If you wanted to get to that precision and that kind of finish in graphite, using something like this, you've got time. There's a lot of time to take, you know, to get to a point where this can do that. It's one of those things, you know, if you're accepting of that, then that's fine. That's 2 or 3 days of, you know, sketching and rubbing and smoothing and blending. But the tool, in a way, denotes the or has a relationship with the actual surface you're working on, the size of the surface you're working on. If you want to get looseness, this kind of looseness, right, this kind of gestural looseness with graphite, then you work on a smaller surface, because the lines pro rata, you know, this line compared to the size of the paper is tiny, so it'll never have that kind of impact. So another thing that people don't consider, you know, the fact that the size of the tool and the relationship with the surface you're working on has a certain outcome, has a certain impact. It's always good. I mean, when I was visualizing, I was taught to visualize on small pads with big magic markers, because there's no way you can get to detail. There was no way you could be fussing around with an eye or whatever. You could just go bang bang, and that was an eye. And it made you think in a certain way. But it was because the magic marker was a right big thick tip thing on a very small, tiny little A6 size pad. But it was a good way to learn, because you made small marks that, you know, had a lot of impact, and that was the relationship between the size of the tool and the surface you're working on. But going back to the holding of the device, holding the tool that you're going to use, it's all relational. It's not about you can only do it this way. It's all down to how you want to respond to a subject. And if I want to be free flowing and I want it to be, you know, sort of more gestural, then I'm going to choose to work in this way, because it allows me, as you can see, it allows my arm to float, and it allows it sort of everything is pivoting on my shoulder. Now, one of the problems you're going to have as well is that if you work from the shoulder, it can be very tiring. You'll get a stiff shoulder. It's a bit like when you play darts. You know, your elbow starts to ache after a while. But is that so? Your shoulder will ache. Now, if you get that problem, if you choose to work at arm's length, and your shoulder's a problem, you sit on a chair the wrong way around with the back, you know, like a dining chair with the back in front of you, like a cowboy style, kind of sit on the chair like a cowboy, and straddle it, and you rest your elbow on a cushion on the back of the chair. So then you haven't got much of a pivot, but it'll help to support your elbow, and probably take off the strain from your shoulder. But nevertheless, it's ultimately you want to do it without the chair. But in the first instance, if it's a problem to hold your arm at this. The other thing about it is, and it didn't happen to me straight away, is that working at arm's length, to be able to keep your charcoal perfectly still like that, it takes a lot of strain on the shoulder. You can make minute marks and hold the arm perfectly still like that. But that's practice. There's only way you're going to do that is get used to doing it. It's not something you can do straight away. You're always going to have a bit of a shake on it to start with. But that's it. It's I hold the device, the tool that you're working with. It's up to you. If you want it to be more flowing and more gestural, draw from the shoulder, draw upright, and don't grip the device, the tool, hard. Don't hold it like that, because you can be gestural like that, but it has a tendency to be forced into, you can see it, you're literally forcing it into the paper. As I said, it's a choice, but if you want it more flowing, more gestural, work from the shoulder, work upright, and don't grip the charcoal or the pencil. So if you're drawing with a pencil, do the same thing, cradle the thing and let it flow over the surface. The advantage is when you're working with graphite as well is that rather than that, because you're only ever going to draw with a point when you're working with it like that, but when you've got the pencil in this sort of grip, you get getting the point of it depending on the incline, but you also get the side of it, so you can get. I know it's not really this is not a pencil for drawing, by the way. This is a pencil for taking away things, but you get the side on of it. So if this is a soft pencil, you'll be getting more of a fatter line. So you're getting a benefit of two kind of thicknesses or variance in thicknesses. So that's it. I just wanted to talk about because I've seen somebody talking about how you must grip it like this or you must grip it like this, and it's dependent on you really. But if you want a more free-flowing style, and you want it to be more gestural, then holding it in a cradle will improve the way you draw. So I'll catch you in the next one.